If a man can go several days without talking to you, I need you to hear this carefully. That is not simply being busy, that is not just stress, that is not always him needing space. It is a message, and the reason it hurts so much is because deep inside you already feel what that message is saying. You're sitting there checking your phone again and again, replaying your last conversation, wondering if you talk too much or maybe not enough, while he is going through his life as if your silence costs him nothing. The hardest part is that the more you chase him, the more you show him that you will accept very little just to keep him around. But stay with me, because what I'm about to share could completely change the way you handle this. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do when he suddenly disappears, and why your silence can say more than 100 messages ever could. It may hurt to hear, but it can save you from years of disappointment if you're willing to face it. When a man can go days without reaching out, that is rarely an accident. It is not always confusion. It is not some impossible mystery that no one can understand. It is a choice. The reason your heart keeps hurting is because your instincts already know the truth, but your emotions keep trying to bargain with it. One of the hardest things to accept is that silence can be an answer, because once you accept that, you have to stop waiting. You have to stop hoping every notification is from him. You have to stop treating your phone like it controls your happiness, and you have to stop creating a relationship in your imagination while he is living in reality. Keep watching, because the next part explains why so many people get trapped in this painful cycle without even realizing it. A grown man usually makes time for the things that matter to him. If he truly wants to call you, he finds a moment. If he wants to send a message, he sends one. If he wants to spend time with you, he makes it happen. If he wants you to feel close, he gives you reasons to feel secure instead of confused. But when he doesn't do those things, he often leaves you sitting in uncertainty. And uncertainty is the perfect place to keep someone emotionally attached without making a real commitment. I already know what some people are thinking. Maybe he works long hours. Maybe he's overwhelmed. Maybe texting isn't really his style. Maybe he has been hurt before. Those things can all be true. But someone can be busy, stressed, quiet, or healing and still stay consistent with the person they truly value. The real issue is not always that he's too busy. Sometimes it's simply that you are not his priority right now. That isn't meant to shame you. It's meant to wake you up before you waste more of your heart. Too many people confuse potential with proof. They fall in love with the version of someone they hope will appear one day instead of paying attention to the person standing in front of them today. They become attached to those brief moments when everything feels perfect, even though those moments are followed by long periods of silence. They hold on because they receive just enough attention to stay emotionally invested, but never enough to actually feel safe. And if you've ever wondered why that pattern is so difficult to break, the next part will probably hit closer to home than you expect. That is where the real danger begins. Little by little, your mind starts lowering its standards without you even noticing. You begin calling the bare minimum real effort. You start calling silence healthy space. You convince yourself inconsistency is just part of someone's personality. You rename disrespect as simple misunderstanding because accepting the truth feels much harder than protecting your hope. Before you realize it, you're carrying the entire emotional weight of the relationship. You're always the one reaching out first. You're always the one forgiving. You're always the one trying to understand while he simply does whatever feels convenient for him. That isn't what healthy love looks like. It's you constantly trying to earn a place in someone's life when they haven't even decided if they truly want you there. Here is the truth that many people avoid saying. If someone can disappear for days without worrying about losing you, then they are not afraid of your absence, and that hurts because you are terrified of losing them. You become afraid to ask for what you need. You become afraid to speak honestly. You start making yourself smaller. You become quieter. You become easier to please. You pretend not to care while carrying all the pain inside. The saddest part is that every time you accept less than you deserve, you quietly teach the other person that this level of effort is enough. Don't click away yet, because what happens next is where everything can finally begin to change. Every time you accept a late reply without any real conversation afterward, you quietly teach him that delaying his attention has no consequences. Every time you send another message after the first one was ignored, you teach him that you will always be the one chasing. Every time you act like the inconsistency doesn't bother you, you teach him that your emotional needs can always wait. Every time you remain available while he stays unavailable, you teach him that he can have full access to your time and energy without giving you responsibility, effort, or commitment in return. Think about that for a moment. People often value what requires care. They appreciate what they could lose. They protect what truly matters to them. If you make it easy for someone to disappear and return whenever they feel like it, many people will continue doing exactly that. Not because they are cruel, not because they are heartless, but because human nature rarely changes a pattern that keeps working. You cannot continue rewarding behavior that keeps hurting you and expect a different result tomorrow. Right here is where honest self-reflection becomes necessary. Ask yourself one simple question. Why are you still investing your heart in someone who keeps showing you that your presence is optional? Don't rush past that question. Sit with it, because your answer will reveal far more about your own healing than it does about him. Stay with me, because the next part may explain feelings you've been carrying for years without realizing it. For some people, the pain comes from the fear of being abandoned. Deep inside, they are trying to prove they are worth staying for. For others, it comes from rejection. They are hoping to finally receive the love they once missed from someone else. For others, it comes from believing they don't deserve anything better. And for many, it comes from loneliness. They would rather accept inconsistent attention than face an empty space alone. But hear this clearly. Inconsistent love is not real love. It feels more like anxiety. It creates emotional instability. It keeps you working endlessly for something that should come naturally in a healthy relationship. A genuine relationship should not leave you constantly guessing. It should not punish you with silence. It should not make you feel guilty for asking for basic communication. It should never convince you that expecting consistency makes you difficult to love. Stop telling yourself that you're asking for too much, when the truth is much simpler. You're often asking the wrong person. The right person does not make you beg for attention. They do not make respect feel like a prize you have to earn. They do not expect you to shrink yourself just to keep the peace. Instead, they create safety. They create trust. They make you feel accepted instead of anxious. If you've been blaming yourself this whole time, don't leave yet, because the next realization changes everything. Here is the emotional trap that keeps so many people stuck. The moment he disappears, your focus shifts completely. Instead of asking why someone was willing to lose you, you become obsessed with getting them back. You start asking yourself, what should I say? How can I make him text me? How can I make him miss me? What can I do differently? The more you chase answers, the more you forget one simple truth. You deserve someone who doesn't need to be convinced to treat you well. You don't need complicated strategies to make the right person act with care. What you truly need are stronger standards that naturally push the wrong person away. That is where real power begins. It is not found in appearance. It is not found in being endlessly patient. It is not found in always understanding someone else's excuses. Real strength comes from your willingness to walk away from anything that does not respect your heart. The moment you stop fearing someone's absence, their absence loses its power over you. Read that again in your mind. The moment you stop fearing their absence, it stops controlling your emotions. Many people are not actually holding on to the person. They are holding on to hope. They are attached to those rare, beautiful moments and the dream of what could have been. Keep watching, because this next truth is one that many people spend years trying to understand. When someone disappears, it doesn't only hurt because you miss them. It hurts because it awakens the fear that maybe you are not enough. But your worth has never depended on someone else's silence. You are enough. The real problem is that you may be pouring your love into someone who has not earned that level of trust or commitment. Understand this deeply. A person's silence does not measure your value. It reveals their level of investment. It reveals their emotional readiness. It reveals what kind of partner they are capable of being at this point in their life. If someone can comfortably leave you waiting in emotional uncertainty, stop convincing yourself they are your perfect match. The right person does not leave you emotionally starving. The right person does not leave you constantly confused. The right person does not make you question your own worth every week. The purpose of hearing this is not to make you angry or bitter. It is to help you become clear. Clear people stop begging. Clear people stop chasing. Clear people stop fighting for attention because they recognize that genuine effort cannot be forced. And once you truly accept that silence is often a choice, you stop creating excuses for someone who is already showing you exactly how much your presence means to them. Once your eyes open to that reality, it becomes impossible to ignore it. That is the moment everything begins to change, and we're only getting started. Because next we're going even deeper into what is really happening when someone suddenly pulls away, so you can stop reacting from emotion and begin responding with confidence and clarity. When you react only from emotion, you slowly give away your power. You begin doing things that feel comforting for a few seconds but end up costing your confidence for months. So listen carefully. A man does not suddenly pull away because he forgot you exist. In many situations, he pulls back to see how much access he can have to your life without offering the consistency and effort you deserve. He watches how much you will accept. He notices how quickly you give in. He pays attention to how available you remain after he becomes distant. Most of all, he learns whether your life is guided by healthy standards or only by strong emotions. I know that sounds difficult to hear, but the purpose is not to hurt you, it is to prepare you. Many people respond differently to relationships. Some are driven mostly by feelings. Others pay closer attention to actions and consequences. The important lesson is simple. Real value is always revealed through consistent behavior. A person who truly cares will naturally make time, not just when they are afraid of losing you, not only when you are upset, not only when they sense you are ready to leave. Their everyday actions tell the real story. If someone is serious about having you in their life, they do not regularly leave you wondering where you stand. They do not disappear for days and act as if nothing happened. Stay with me because the next point explains why this pattern repeats so often. Here is the first truth you should never ignore. People always make room for what genuinely matters to them, not what they claim to value, not what they promise during emotional conversations. Their habits reveal their priorities. When someone truly wants a relationship, consistency becomes normal, not something you have to beg for. So why do some people keep pulling away? Because they enjoy many of the benefits of a relationship without accepting the responsibility that comes with it. They enjoy knowing someone is waiting for them. They enjoy the confidence boost of feeling wanted. They appreciate emotional support when life becomes difficult. They like affection when they feel lonely. They enjoy attention when they are bored and reassurance when they need validation. But they avoid the responsibility of showing up with steady effort. If you allow that pattern to continue, it often grows stronger. They take your time, they take your emotional energy, they take your patience, they take your forgiveness, they accept your kindness again and again without giving the same level of commitment back. This continues until one day you finally decide that enough is enough. Don't miss what comes next, because this is where many people unknowingly lose their strongest position in the relationship. The second truth is one that surprises many people. Chasing someone rarely increases their love. More often, it lowers the value they place on your attention. Many believe that showing endless care will automatically create deeper care in return. But if you continue pouring love into someone who is clearly giving very little back, you are no longer demonstrating healthy love. You are showing that you will stay regardless of how you are treated. Once someone becomes certain you will never leave, they often stop making the same effort they made in the beginning. You become predictable. And when someone believes you will always be there, they may start treating your presence as optional instead of precious. That is why constant texting after silence often leads to even longer silence. That is why endless explanations are sometimes met with even less attention. That is why trying to fix everything by yourself usually pushes the responsibility away from the other person. Deep inside, they begin believing, she'll still be here whenever I'm ready. That single belief creates one of the most painful relationship patterns because it quietly turns you into a backup plan instead of a true priority. Keep watching, because the next idea reveals why silence can become one of the strongest forms of emotional control. Silence often becomes a form of emotional leverage. Whether someone realizes it consciously or not, they may notice that it changes your behavior. They know that when they go quiet, you begin overthinking every conversation. They know that when they pull back, you start leaning closer. They know that when they disappear, you become the one chasing. The moment that happens, the balance of the relationship shifts. Instead of being built on equal effort, it becomes built on your anxiety and their comfort. Some people enjoy feeling needed more than they enjoy building a healthy connection. But someone who truly loves and respects you does not enjoy watching you suffer. They do not leave you trapped in confusion on purpose. They do not want you questioning your worth every few days. Another important truth is this: people often grow when they feel inspired to become better, and that usually happens around someone with healthy boundaries and self-respect. Not someone who threatens, argues endlessly, or begs to be chosen, but someone who stays calm, speaks clearly, and is fully willing to walk away if necessary. If you are giving unlimited access to your time, your attention, your loyalty, your emotions, and your forgiveness while receiving inconsistency in return, what reason does the other person have to change? Very little. Real respect grows when effort has meaning, and that's exactly why boundaries matter more than endless explanations. Now, some people may wonder, what if he's truly overwhelmed? What if he's struggling with depression, stress, or family problems? Those situations are real, and life can become extremely difficult. But emotional maturity still looks a certain way. A respectful person communicates. Even a short message saying, "I'm dealing with a lot right now. I need a little time, but I'm not ignoring you," can make a huge difference. The issue is rarely needing space. The issue is disappearing without respect or communication. That kind of silence creates unnecessary confusion and emotional pain. If you accept it today without question, you may slowly begin accepting even worse treatment later. And that is exactly what you need to protect yourself from. One of the biggest misunderstandings is believing that love alone changes people. It usually doesn't. Love cannot transform someone who refuses to grow. Patience cannot fix someone who rejects accountability. Loyalty cannot heal someone who constantly seeks attention from everywhere else. Kindness cannot repair someone who is committed to selfish behavior. Real change usually comes through consequences, boundaries, personal responsibility, and the realization that they could lose someone valuable. When someone repeatedly goes days without talking to you, they are revealing where you fit into their priorities. They are showing how much importance they place on your feelings. They are revealing who they become when relationships require effort. The mistake many people make is trying to negotiate with that reality, but you cannot negotiate with someone's character. You can only decide whether that behavior matches the life and love you truly deserve, and what comes next may completely change the way you respond from this moment forward. You cannot argue someone into becoming consistent. You cannot love someone into emotional maturity if they have no desire to grow. You cannot send enough messages to make someone suddenly value you. You cannot cry enough tears to turn the wrong person into the partner you need. I know that is painful because part of you wants to believe that if you just say the perfect words, act the right way, or become the kind of person they want, everything will finally change. But here is the truth that many people spend years avoiding. If someone truly wanted to show up for you, they would already be doing it. So what should you do with that reality? Stop taking silence as a personal attack and start seeing it as important information. Stop reacting immediately and begin observing carefully. Stop chasing and start choosing. Because the moment you stop making yourself available for inconsistent behavior, you finally discover what the other person really wants. Stay with me, because the next idea may completely shift the way you see relationships. It is simple to understand, but it takes courage to practice. And once you do, everything begins to look different. Now we reach the point that separates people who stay trapped from those who finally take their power back. What I'm about to share sounds easy, but emotionally, it can be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Why? Because it asks you to do the exact opposite of what your emotions are pushing you toward. It asks you to stop reaching out. It asks you to stop checking your phone every few minutes. It asks you to stop chasing answers and stop treating someone else's silence like it is your personal emergency. Here is the shift. If someone can disappear for days without talking to you, remove your attention from the situation. Remove your constant availability. Return to your own life as though you were never sitting around waiting in the first place. This is not about playing games. It is not about punishing anyone. It is not about manipulation. It is about restoring balance. Right now, the connection may be completely uneven. One person feels free while the other feels anxious. One person feels in control while the other feels confused. That is not what a healthy relationship should feel like. So stop feeding the unhealthy pattern. Stop being the one carrying the entire connection by yourself. Keep watching, because the next comparison makes this lesson impossible to forget. Think of attention like water flowing into two cups. If one person keeps pouring into the other person's cup while receiving almost nothing back, eventually only one person stays comfortable while the other is left emotionally exhausted. That is why your first step is learning how to become peacefully silent too. But listen carefully because this matters. There is a huge difference between silence that comes from strength and silence that comes from bitterness. Bitterness stays quiet while secretly hoping to be noticed. Strength stays quiet because it has already noticed everything it needed to notice. You are not doing this to create jealousy. You are not trying to teach someone a lesson. You are protecting your peace because your time has value, your heart has value, your energy has value. You are no longer willing to hand those things to someone who keeps treating them as if they are disposable. This is where many people lose their progress. They stay silent for a few hours, then give in. They wait one day before sending another message. They avoid texting but start posting online hoping to get attention instead. They appear quiet on the outside while emotionally chasing on the inside. That is not confidence, that is only performance. Real change happens when your actions and your mindset finally match each other. If you truly want this change to work, it has to be genuine, it has to be steady, it has to come from a place of self-respect instead of hidden expectations. The goal is not simply to stop texting. The goal is to change the emotional energy inside the relationship. You are no longer begging for replies. You are no longer keeping every conversation alive by yourself. Another important shift is learning to stop over-explaining your needs. Many people believe that if they just explain their feelings one more time, everything will finally make sense. That sounds reasonable, but it often fails when the other person already understands exactly what they are doing. Someone who truly cares does not need a long speech to know that respect matters. Someone who values you does not need paragraphs reminding them that you exist. The more you explain basic needs, the more it can seem like you are trying to convince someone to offer simple effort that should already come naturally. Instead of constantly explaining yourself, quietly raise your standards. Instead of pleading for attention, slowly detach from unhealthy patterns. Instead of chasing people, choose yourself first. Don't leave yet, because the final piece brings all of this together. The last part of this shift is creating distance without creating drama. No angry messages, no emotional speeches, no desperate voice notes, no trying to force guilt onto someone who has already shown you where they stand. Emotional explosions often become distractions. Instead of discussing their inconsistent behavior, you suddenly end up defending your emotional reaction. Stay calm instead, stay focused, become peacefully unavailable. That quiet change is often noticed far more than endless arguments ever are. People respond when comfort changes. They respond when unlimited access disappears. They respond when they realize they are no longer guaranteed your attention. Right now, someone may feel completely comfortable because they believe you will always answer, always forgive, always wait, and always remain available. So remove that comfort, not through threats, but through healthy distance. When you stop reaching out, they no longer receive constant reassurance without effort. When you stop checking in, they lose the certainty they once depended on. Sometimes that creates curiosity. Sometimes it creates reflection. But remember this carefully. The purpose of this shift is not simply to make someone come back. The real purpose is to help you come back to yourself. Return to your own life, return to your goals, return to your daily routines, return to your friendships, return to your hobbies, return to your confidence, return to the standards that protect your peace. Because when you become fully centered again, no one else's silence has the power to control your happiness anymore. And that is where real freedom finally begins.